Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Banished Zone, the show about flesh and blood with Bryn.
And with Chris.
Yes, we are on Twitter as @BanishedZone and @BluePlunderRun. So those are the things you should know. I feel like the show is new enough that if you stumbled here, maybe you would want to know that right up front.
That's true.
This is the 10th episode of The Banished Zone.
Ooh, with the big 1-0.
The big 010. Nice and symmetrical. Hey, we made it.
Yeah.
It's a real show.
The haters said we wouldn't get here.
They were always saying that to me. They're always saying, hey, these people aren't going to make it to episode 10.
They won't make 10 episodes. How could you make 10 episodes about flesh and blood? It's just a card game.
I don't know if that's exactly what they're saying, but I'm saying
Yeah. Well, I don't want to repeat what they
we're
were
here
saying.
now, and that's what's important.
Mm-hmm.
So Flesh and Blood has been going through it in a good way. I think.
I was like, wait, what? They have? In what way? But the good way.
Right. Well, we've been going through it. And by it, I mean the gauntlet.
Playing way too much flesh and blood.
The gauntlet of flesh and blood. Yeah, playing way too much. The last weekend was the Battle Hardened. And
Battle Hardened in New Jersey. Not to be confused with the Battle Hardened in
Auckland?
Leeds.
Oh.
No, Auckland's having a calling, I think.
Right. There was a Leeds Battle Hardened.
In the UK.
Yeah, there's been
the British Battle Hardened.
We are Battle Hardened.
Yeah.
That's how you guys talk.
That's probably what they would say. Yeah. Probably was a lovely old job as well.
The Battle Hardened.
Yeah.
We had it in Jersey at the same exact building in the same exact convention center as the Pro Tour 1.
Yeah.
Which we also went to. This was an interesting experience for multiple reasons, and I wanted to talk about it. We'll get to the actual playing of the games in a moment, and how we did and what we felt about it. But I wanted to mention that it was a really interesting one-to-one. You wouldn't get this scientifically setup of a hypothesis between Channel Fireball and SCG Con.
That's true.
Star City Games.
Same building, same type of event.
3 days.
Yeah, a little less fancy because it's not the Pro Tour, but like same thing basically.
So they're slightly different. I have hopes for SCG because of the things they did right, but I do think that they did some things wrong that Channel Fireball didn't do. The things that they did right, where our cat is meowing really loudly. I don't know if that's being picked up. I'm guessing no.
I think no. It probably just I'm making a weird face for no reason. I don't know what she's talking about. I'm sure she's fine.
She is yowling because for no reason.
She just wants food. Probably.
It's not really any. Don't worry about
normal.
it. But I was distracted. I'm trying to not be distracted.
You were saying they made mistakes that you think Channel Fireball didn't make?
Right. So the thing is that it was also a Magic event.
Right. Yeah. Just as much a Magic event.
I feel like it was definitely more so.
Yeah. That's like what I think that's kind of the idea behind Battle Hardens is that like the reason they take place all in one day is because they're supposed to like take place as events at bigger conventions where it's like...
Or like not specifically Flesh and Blood
Not specifically Flesh and Blood events. Yeah, they're often at a thing like an SCG Con, or I feel like they've had them at like Gen Con or something, like other just like random conventions.
Right.
Like one of the
I gotta
things
say, I expected a lot better from Magic.
In what way?
Like considering that it is a 30-year-old brand, like it was even less impressive than Pro Tour 1 for them. And I know that like...
You mean in terms of like stuff on the walls or like theming or anything?
Anything. Yeah, there was one or like 3 artists there, right? Like 2 artists.
Mark Poole was there.
Mark Poole was there, and I got a lot of stuff signed. And that's very cool. But it's like... What Steve Argyle and Federico Mazzetti was there for Pro Tour 1. And that's all. And it was like, I thought that was like, I don't know, not chintzy, but it's like, they were just getting started, right? It's like,
sure. I see
Pro
what you're
Tour
saying.
1, we don't have any visitors. Like, we don't have any special guests. Like, that's weird, right? Like, the professor wasn't there. They only had 2 artists. There's probably a lot of different types of people that people would have been interested in having. But I was like, okay, well, it's their first try. People are really here to play the game.
I mean, James White was there. James White was in the booth all day at the first Pro Tour.
No, I know. Of course, James White's going to be there. It's the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know. It's just like you'd think there'd be more vendors and more, like, it'd be I'm just used to comic conventions. This is the thing.
Okay, sure.
Is that I have gone to comic conventions my entire life. I've worked them. I was a big comic book fan. I worked in comic book stores growing up. So I'm just used to a convention that has a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, there's the games going on, but like still, if you want to walk around and see stuff, if you want to see
I'm sorry.
if you want to see like artists and vendors who sell lots of different types of card games, then you can.
Compared to like the card game things we've gone to, it's like way busier and flashier and stuff.
Card games are $1 billion industry.
Right.
Like comic book conventions have to be really small and have no backing from anything to be this lame. Like, I don't know. Just if you're a Magic player, like, has this never gotten to you? Have you ever been like, it'd be cool if there was like, I don't know, a guy dressed up as Nico Bolas or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What is this?
There was at the Pro Tour because there was like the cosplay
I
contest.
know. I'm just saying.
Sure. For Magic.
And maybe it's because it's not Magic. Is there a Magic convention? Like, is there a Magic Con?
There was Magic 30 this year. Remember, like the 30th anniversary.
But that's a
thing.
That's not a once a year thing.
Yeah, I don't really know if they have a once a year thing. I feel like it was probably just.
I'm just very surprised that the card game convention, the biggest card game conventions, are like a bunch of tables in a room and that's all.
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of what it was. Yeah, you couldn't really tell the Magic tables from the Flesh and Blood tables, other than
no
what
designating.
cards they had. Yeah,
literally not a single designating icon or color.
Yeah,
like come on. I just feel like I feel like somehow card games have been taken over, just completely my perspective from 1 year of going to them. Like, it seems like at some point the companies that took over and built this like circuit were just like the least interested companies and in like making it a cool and fun experience for players.
Yeah, it definitely was, especially like this convention center is like, it's a good convention center in terms of like space and accessibility, so no complaints there. But it's just like this huge stark room where there's like two bathrooms, the water fountains didn't work,
and I think they specifically turned them off because they're selling water, which is despicable and shouldn't be illegal.
It's horrific. Yeah.
If it is legal, I'm not even sure.
I don't know. It's water in the bathroom, I guess, technically.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's probably not legal. Like, we know you're turning it off. The water works everywhere else. Like, what is going on? But comic book conventions are generally in rooms like that. Like, that's usually what a comic book convention would look like, but it'd be full of people. Same with video game conventions, you know?
Sure, yeah,
like, video games, obviously card games aren't at that level.
Sure.
But I feel
Not
like
many things are.
yeah, but I feel like generally there's just like booths with stuff that are like fun to look at and guides people over to it.
Yeah.
And again, I know the whole point is the sitting down and playing the games.
Yeah.
But if that was the case, then why are they just still like shitty folding tables and folding chairs? Like, maybe step it up a notch a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is not LSS or, I mean, as far as I know, it's not Wizards' fault either. But the fact that they have only allowed these, like Wizards, Hasbro has allowed their circuit to become just like this really slapdash kind of project feels really strange to me.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, especially for Wizards, for Hasbro, it's like, it's probably viewed as kind of like the money pit aspect of their brand. Like, before Flesh and Blood was a thing, they were like moving away from even being, like, it was the thing they still sold paper versions of, but it was kind of just like Magic was going to move to the computer and the phone, and that was just like the easier way to play competitive Magic.
It's
anyway.
Interesting because I wonder if like back in the 90s, because we've seen videos of like they were like paying people who were like popular players, like you know, to be kind of like celebrities, you know, like they were trying to turn it into like a televised thing. And those have like, you know, there's like televised Magic games that look like they're in like dungeons and stuff, you know, like there's like all this pomp and and I want to say circumstance, but that's not what I'm saying. That's the graduation theme.
Yeah.
But design, right?
Yeah, making it feel like you're somewhere cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just very odd.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's like it's one thing to design. Yeah, because
I wonder if it's been on a slow decline since
maybe.
then, and they're just like, well, it's not making us as much money as we wanted to make, so they just stopped investing in it. Is my guess. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, because
let me know if you've been into Magic for a long time. I really don't know what I'm talking about in terms of the history of it, but I'm just saying like what I've seen going to them is like companies don't seem to invest as much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, even we've talked about like the tent at Worlds, where it's like some of the like footage and like the games and stuff. It like looks pretty nice, but people have talked about being at Worlds and it was kind of dark in the tent and there were no bathrooms inside and it was just like it was a tent.
Well, right,
It looked weird.
And we've talked about before. It seems like the person responsible at LSS doesn't work there any longer, and Mr. White himself seemed to be pretty upset about the way Worlds went off, especially the location. But this isn't an official, LSS. I mean, it's LSS sponsored, but it's a Star City Games convention.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised at how similar it was, and how it didn't seem like there was any differentiation between Magic and Flesh and Blood. As a matter of fact, when we played in the Armory on Friday, I looked at my gem account and sat at the table, and the person next to me was like, there's like a game going on. Like, I was like, they were like, are you playing? And I was like, no, I mean, I'm playing Flesh and Blood. They're like, this is not the table. There's like a Magic game going on this table.
Oh, okay.
And I was like,
was
what?
that when they accidentally put like 20 instead of 620 in
they put the
number?
wrong numbers. So
the wrong table numbers.
They're like,
yeah,
whoops. So I had to like run all the way across the building to like sit down and play my game.
Yeah.
But the judges were nice. The judges did a good job. There was some like LSS seemed to be employees.
Oh, were there? Who?
One of the judges was an LSS employee. He said he was going to be on the big like character map, or the mat.
Oh, okay.
The one that has all the employees as like heroes and stuff.
Oh, I don't think I talked to that person. That's cool. Like the head judge or something.
Yeah, he was like a New Zealand guy.
Okay. Cool.
And so, people were doing a great job. Everything went off without a hitch, as far as I can tell. The food, there was food.
They had better food this time. Yeah,
they had food.
Yeah, that's true. I got some fruit, and it was like a lot better than because last time was like really. It was like inedibly hard chicken strips, right? And like nachos with the like molten fake cheese sauce, and like that's it. Like candy bars and stuff.
I don't think there was much more. This time they had a hot dog, they had a burger, they had pizza, they had just like probably like 10, 15 things, and all of them seemed edible.
Yeah.
It might have even been the same like vendor, but it just
people complained a lot. Man,
or SCG Con just pays them more.
They were like they bought not the cheapest package of food possible.
Yeah. For 1,000 people.
Yeah. I'm just remembering we were watching a vlog from Az from Go Again Gaming. Shout out to Az.
Shout out to Az.
He did a vlog of the Leeds Battle Hardened.
They shouted me out on Living Legends again.
Oh yeah, again?
Well, not shouted me out. They shamed me once again.
They shamed you again for getting his name wrong? I thought that already happened once.
Yeah. They were just fucking with me.
I see.
But it is funny to be listening to your podcasts and then hear like, Bryn, I'm just fucking with you.
You were spreading misinformation once again.
I'm like, whoa, wow.
Yeah. I was just remembering that...
I know. No hard feelings.
Yeah.
I love your show.
Yeah, it's a great show. He was recording the like opening announcements and stuff at the Leeds Battle Hardened, and the guy was like, and if you want beer, you can go over here and get it. And I was like, man, they had beer at their Battle Hardened?
That would have been cool.
It looked nicer. Like the building it was in looked cooler. It looked way smaller somehow, and I don't know how they fit like 200 people. Maybe it was just for the Battle Hardened and not Magic as well. So I feel like these events and other, like whenever I look at, like, remember like the Lille event space, it looked beautiful. Like
yeah, I mean they didn't have air conditioning because it's Europe, but like
true, yeah,
it's trade-offs. But America does seem to have some really big problems, and Wizards is an American company, and I wonder what that means for Flesh and Blood, because LSS really wants or has said that they're really trying to make the professional tournament like a real thing again, an in-person professional level tournament scene
Mm-hmm.
that like is a real thing that people want to go to. And I feel like if they can, I think they're going to put a lot more money into it than Wizards ever did.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they're
Um,
putting more money into like prizing and stuff this year than they did last year. So
Is that so? Is it $2 million this year?
I don't remember if they said something about how it was going to be more like, and maybe it's like they at least like guaranteed the same amount and they're planning for it to be more. So I would hope they put more money into the organizing and the event and stuff as well, not just the prizing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the balance though, right? Like,
Yeah.
what kind of hell do you have to go to get the money?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't think they want it to be as intense as it is. I feel like the whole structure of the way these things go is a little bit designed around getting it done rather than like it being a fun experience for the players.
Sure. Like you mean you feel like it's all focused on just like get everyone to their table, get the games played, get the next round started.
There aren't bathroom breaks built in. There aren't food breaks built in.
Yeah.
Like that is not how people exist. And I feel like it must just have become a thing that people accept, that it's
at
like
these events,
that you have to finish your games quickly, you have to run to the bathroom, you have to bring Cliff Bars and
Mhm.
whatever Soylents or whatever, and just drink at the table, and like that's not a fun experience for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, especially for a battle hardened, like because this one, I think we just had crossed the threshold. I think the threshold is 128. If you're under that, it's 7 rounds of Swiss, but we were at like 130, so it was 8 rounds.
I think we were 129.
It was 129. Yeah, so it's sort of like there are 8 rounds that have an hour each scheduled into them. So it already is 8 hours of Swiss starting at 9 a.m. and then they have to play an untimed top 8, which like they had to make sure to not take too long because the venue was going to close. So it's like that's sort of the trade-off of it being a one-day event, is that they have to squeeze.
Okay, well then it doesn't need to be 8. Like that needs that either that has to be like LSS needs to do something about that too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
or have it at a venue that can be open till midnight and then it goes longer.
I just don't believe anybody actually, like, people do enjoy playing the game, but nobody wants it to be timed like this, right? Like, is there any like buddy out there who's like a professional player or something who's like advocating it for to be like no bathroom breaks built in?
Yeah, I feel like there should just be like a 10-minute break in between the rounds and not just like immediately have to go. There
should be a little meal. There should be like a 30-minute break to run and get something.
I think some of our local friends who went to Nats said that there was like a lunch break at Nationals, because Nationals had a 2-day process, so they had something built in there. But this was
right. I'm just saying, if you're scheduling something, it should be scheduled around how people are. Like nobody likes getting a loss because they had to go to the bathroom or an IP2 or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is
stupid
bogus
and bad. Like,
yeah,
you shouldn't
it's punishing. Yeah, it's not a relaxed night at the Armory for sure to play.
But I don't think it's. I'm anticipating, maybe incorrectly, but I'm anticipating a response of like, well, if you want to be the champion, you got to put yourself through it or whatever. And it's like, I don't think in any sport that's like the right move.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't have to suffer to play the game. Like, obviously you can argue about like pushing yourself or, training really hard or whatever, but like, you have to take care of yourself too. That's a part of being a strong player. You have to have your basic needs met to like play a game or think properly. You're going to play worse if you are holding you're holding your pee or something, or you're like starving.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons.
Headache from being hungry.
It's one of the reasons I enjoyed playing Fi. It's because I had some rounds where I had like a nice 20 minutes left after the game finished, so I had time to go to the bathroom and get food and stuff.
Right. I was on Icelander, which was a mistake.
Yeah. You tortured yourself
because
a little
I was going to time almost every fucking game. Yeah, and I mean, I think there was like breaks. Like, it felt like there was. I'd go to time and there'd be like 5 minutes between games.
I think
but it never felt built in. There wasn't like another timer that was like time until the next game starts. It would just be like plus and then continue growing.
I think that was just happening because if you do a judge call, like if you call a judge and it takes a little while for the judge to show up and for them to like solve your issue, they add that time back into your round.
Right.
So,
but then it just starts at 55 and then it starts when it starts. There's no like, here's how much time you have to use the restroom.
It feels like soccer where there's just like at the end of the game you get extra time for how many timeouts happened or whatever, but it's unclear how much.
Right. So I'm saying that's bad.
It would be cool
if
if like after 4 rounds it was like a 20-minute built-in break where like no one was playing and you could just go
at least
use the bathroom
just to
or
have
whatever.
a little, just to eat a hot dog or something.
Although then everyone would line up at the food and it would all get slammed and I don't know.
Well,
I don't know
it
what the
needs to be
solution
longer.
is.
It's not our job to figure out how the scheduling works.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying. So
it's punishing for sure. I'm not going to argue with that at all.
yeah, it shouldn't be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing should be like that. Like
maybe that's just how competitive card tournaments are. Like maybe it's always just been like that.
no, that's what I'm saying. I think it is, but I think
Yeah.
if LSS is trying to make something of it, I think in a lot of ways it needs to change. Because Wizards probably abandoned it for a reason, and only the most dedicated freaks are gonna come to something where they have to like be in pain,
Yeah.
or like be discomforted. You know, like it should be something you can do, like walking around Disneyland or whatever is exhausting.
Sure.
But like there are amenities.
Yeah.
You can easily go to the bathroom. You can easily take a break and go to get food or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, you know, if LSS wants lots of people to come to these things,
Mm-hmm.
then it should be a good time
Yeah.
for everybody, right? Speaking of a good time for everybody, people have been having an argument online
Mhm.
about variance for some reason.
This is a weird one. Yeah.
Where did this come from?
Tarek Patel, I think, started it.
Tarek Patel.
I believe he was the first tweet where he was like,
Oh yeah, it was like a hot take.
uh-huh. Yeah, the take is basically that it's not the best for getting new players into the game when variance is really low in the meta because it means new players can never win. So then they feel bad about the game and they want to quit.
Right. He was saying that Starvo was better.
I guess, or like Chain or...
Starvo Chain was better because it was more fun because there was more variance or whatever. And I'm just very confused about this. Kugane was trying to explain to me about how many players there are in terms of growth. And they were looking at 90-day XP, like people who had played games.
Just like how many people there were who at least had like 1 or 3 XP or something, like had won a game at an armory or at an event or whatever.
I guess I wasn't really following exactly how they were working on it, but I don't know if there's data about how the game is growing. All I've seen is people saying that it's growing. Like, I don't think we're having...
Like, anecdotally, around us, it's growing. Like, our local armories keep getting bigger. Like, there's more people getting into the game constantly. Local players that we know, only, like, 1 or 2 have basically... I think we know 2 people who have been like, I want to quit Flesh and Blood. One because he was too busy, and one because she was like, the game got too competitive, and I'm not into that, or too expensive.
They were very interested in PvE, if that comes to fruition or whatever.
Yeah, but in terms of number of people, it's like there's been 10 times as many, 20 times as many new players as there have anyone who's actually quit the game.
Yeah, there's regularly, too many players for the stores.
Yeah, at this point.
In New York City. Mm-hmm. So... my experience has been that there has been no problem with retention of players. I guess my only thing is I kind of get what Tarek is saying here, that like if the game is chess, then people are going to, maybe some people are going to bounce off it. Mm-hmm. I would argue that chess is the biggest game in the world, and no.
That's true. People still are very passionate about competitive chess, and also people play chess casually too. Like, people have fun playing chess, even like with the
personally
knowledge.
I think they're psychos. Chess is not a fun game.
Chess is too dry. Chess is very dry to me, and it's like I do think that's a good example, or a good sort of like thing to avoid, is that like I do get it that like the stuff that has variance and is, or just stuff that's broken, like not even variants necessarily, but it's like Briar is a fun hero to play, even though like the amount of value she gets on like random generics and Channel Mount Heroic is kind of stupid. Like Combo Viz seem really fun.
Combo Viz very fun.
Chain is fun. Starvo seemed fun. So it's like, to a certain extent, having some level of like broken stuff you can do in a card game, I think it's like part of the reason people play card games, because it's, you want to have the feeling of like, getting the best hand in poker or like winning solitaire, where you want the cards to come together and you're just like, look at this combo, look at this full house, everything came together, now I do this crazy thing and your opponent can't stop you. I think that's kind of like the draw of card games to some degree.
To some degree. But,
to some degree.
But like nobody wants to play, everyone complains about Yu-Gi-Oh! For being like,
right.
Oh, I got the combo first, so I win.
Oh, I have a trap in my hand that cancels your combo. Well, I have an anti-trap trap or whatever.
What we're basically saying is like the game should be designed well, right? Like
right. It should be in between Yu-Gi-Oh! And chess. It should be strategic and planned, but also it shouldn't be like...
But within those two gulfs, right? Like, I think Flesh and Blood very squarely sits there.
Yeah.
Like
I think to
the needle between Starvo and Icelander or whatever is like pretty close.
Also, Starvo seems like at a high level, like in a Starvo mirror, it probably is a lot of skill, because it's like tracking you and your opponent's pitch stack.
Right.
And keeping track of exactly what cards have already been played and knowing like who is going to get like a fused Oaken first in the pitch stack or something. Like there's a lot of skill expression there.
Right. So I guess like it's an odd thing to say without any proof, or like if LSS had come out and said like, well, we were growing and now we're not growing as quickly or something, like maybe there would be a reason to explain that, and then I'd be like, oh, well, maybe the game got more intense and more competitive, and that's because of the lack of variance. But that's, as far as I know, not true. So
yeah, it didn't...
that's what's so confusing to me. It's not that I necessarily even think that it's a wrong thing to say. It's just like, is it happening?
Yeah, it didn't strike me as a take that was so much like, this is definitely why people are leaving, but more of just like, maybe a thing that people have experienced in Magic and other games before, where they're like, if a game is too like crunchy and high level and competitive and new players feel like they stand no chance, then sometimes as it goes on longer, it gets insular and people bounce off it more. Maybe that's a thing people have experienced, and they're sort of like getting that vibe that it could happen. Because I will say, it feels like right now, if you like got into Flesh and Blood like this month, and we're like, okay, I want to build a competitive deck, like it is a little daunting, some of the prices on cards. Like that Tunic is over $200 now.
It's so expensive. Everything's so expensive.
Crown of Providence is like a card you really need and is so expensive. Like I remember when we joined, and it was like, I think Arcanite Skullcap was like 120 or something when we started playing. I don't even remember really. Like
180.
There were some cards that you needed that were like in the like mid hundreds. Like it felt crazy to open a Tunic.
But everyone told me like you don't really need a skull cap, and the truth is that I don't know if I really did.
Yeah, it's not like it changes what your deck can do. Like because we were learning anyway, so it's not like we had the skills to like suddenly win a bunch of games with more optimal decks anyway.
Right.
So it's like,
but we just had the like, but I want to try.
Yeah.
Like drive to it.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that I don't empathize with in terms of experience, and I don't think you do either, because neither of us won much at the start of the game. Like I feel like I was winning like maybe a game an Armory, or no games an Armory, and it didn't make the game less fun. It was still fun to learn and play against you.
Right. I mean, that's the other thing about it, right? That it doesn't feel like it's something that that's as a kind of new player myself, right? Like, I mean, it's been a year that I've been into a card game once.
Yeah.
It just doesn't speak to my experience at all. Like if I was just like getting rolled by stuff that I didn't understand more than I was.
Yeah.
Just because I would be able to pull it off once or twice wouldn't make me feel good about it. I just feel like, oh, this game is just a dice roll.
Yeah.
And that would be like, oh, why would I want to invest in this at all?
Right. What's fun about this?
Game?
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard to imagine a game that has those feelings sometimes and not all the time. Right? Like it's hard to imagine a game where you're like, it's hard to imagine in Flesh and Blood where you would be like, have a hero who is just like any idiot can like grab the deck and then steamroll people sometimes, but not all the time. That would like, how would that exist?
Right. Oh, you mean like how would there be like a low level of variance or?
How would you have like some variance, right?
Yeah.
Like you can
And I
only
mean-
the game has to be designed like around that, right? Like
Yeah,
Flesh and
and-
Blood is a game that has variance just by the nature of it being a card game.
Right, it's a card game. Like there's variance. You could
You
play.
draw.
You could play Briar and then draw Channel Mount Heroic every game, and then that's variance. Like,
Right. It's a deck building game.
There's
So it's
there's
like
combo-y decks you could play.
you can build your own stuff,
Mhm.
you know, but like the idea that you'd be able to just like have a little of that feeling for new players doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't quite. Yeah, I mean, I guess like.
And it's not like new players could have even picked up Starvo. Like I kind of wanted to try Starvo out when I first started 6 months into playing the game.
Mhm.
I didn't have that deck.
Yeah, back then that was a very expensive
That
deck,
would have
right?
been
Because
it was like $1,000 deck.
yeah, because you needed a tunic, which we did have a tunic at that point, but like you would have needed Crown of Seeds, which at the time I feel like was over $100 because it was in the best deck. There's Crown of Seeds. You needed both shields, which were each in the hundreds.
Wait, Crown of Seeds?
Yeah.
Crown of Seeds was like $170 at that time.
Okay, because you needed it for the best deck.
Yeah.
And then there was.
You needed Stalagmite, you needed Rampart.
Those are both 100, I feel like.
Over, yeah.
Probably. And you needed Crater Fist, which probably was. I don't know how much that
I think
was.
it was like 40, 50 at the time.
Gosh, that's crazy. It's only 20 now.
I know, but there's no Starvo.
Yeah, there's not
So-
Starvo. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're talking about like hundreds of dollars, maybe like upwards of 1,000 at the time. To even play that deck. So it's like,
Yeah.
is that new player friendly? Like I built a Viscerai and it was like a couple $100,
Mhm.
and I was like,
Yeah,
I
'cause
was like,
you
I
bought
don't
some
know,
legendaries,
I
yeah.
don't feel good about this. Like I was like, this seems crazy.
And
'Cause
then
I'm-
also the deck got banned pretty quickly after that, and you were like, oh, great. Creepers, no use for these anymore.
Not creepers. I mean, like I still played Viscerai. I didn't realize like, but like banning Skeletor, a $30 card,
Yeah, which
At
is
the time.
now a $5 card.
was not very nice to me. Like it didn't feel like oh wow, it's so friendly to new players. Also, it would have been extremely unfriendly to new players if they did buy into Starvo and then you immediately LL'd because they didn't like really understand the LL system. or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just don't think that this is like a very reasonable thing. Like it's a weird thing that everyone's kind of latched on to discussing. Like
Yeah, I mean, a few people
how do you
gave
design?
examples.
Do you want people to design worse, more broken heroes?
Yeah, it felt like one of the. I mean, some people gave examples where they were like, they were like, I feel like I see local players getting frustrated when they never win, or like there's people who are like kind of dropping off the game or whatever.
Yeah, so do I, but you just keep playing until you win. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Not
don't know.
everyone can win.
Yeah, that's the whole point of a game like that. Yeah, I don't know. So it feels like a sort of like there's often conversations like this where people are sort of like making up a new player to like that's what it feels like. It feels like they're
it's
sort of
making
like
up a guy and feeling bad for a guy.
yeah, inventing a new player and then getting sad for that new player, which is like fine to do, but I'd like to see more like because this isn't even a complaint. You know, like there was that whole hubbub where LSS shredded the gold foil tunics and you had a bunch of dumbasses be like, this is why no one wants to play Flesh and Blood. They overprice the legendaries. They purposely make them rare. Like
Right.
that people were complaining about that. I don't
But
really
those are
see.
mostly magic people.
It was magic people, yeah. So it's like I don't even see people saying like, man, Flesh and Blood seems so sweaty. It's so try hard. I'll never play that because I love Commander or whatever. Like I don't really see takes like that. So it's like I don't know if it's people bouncing off so hard.
Yeah, maybe it's just what we're not seeing, you know. But
Mhm.
I am very interested. I just feel like when people say stuff like, "What do you when you make points like this?" Like I'm just
Mhm.
curious. Like, what do you want to see from LSS? Like, what kind of change do you actually want?
Uh-huh.
Do you want more Starvos? Do you want? Because it's funny because I have said on the show and I've said when it happened that I kind of thought Starvo was cool. Like I like the idea
kinda
of
interesting,
having
yeah.
like a little bit overpowered boss of the meta
Mhm.
where like everyone has to figure out how to beat it. Everyone who wants to play it.
Yeah, I mean, Chain did a pretty decent job of beating Starvo in certain builds, I think.
Yeah,
I-
and I think having like a two like well you can play for fun and then if you want to play seriously there's only 3 choices.
Right.
Like that honestly does feel a little better as a person who wants to win.
Mm-hmm.
For me, but
Yeah.
that doesn't feel like a new player issue at all. So it's like
Yeah.
but at the same time I just don't think it's reasonable to say, well, I want LSS to design heroes that are like above rate on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day,
Maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't know. The game is designed to be a competitive game, and it's complicated, and it has a lot of choice. And when you combine complexity and choice, then it's very difficult. It's like pretty difficult to just wander into a win in Flesh and Blood. So by its design, it's going to be hard for new players. And I don't want them to go away from that at all, because it's what makes it so fun.
Right.
That it feels like you improve on a deck.
I think that's really the case, is like when somebody says something that you feel is the opposite of what you want for the game, that people do get defensive or whatever. And I don't know. I'm not trying to be defensive or anything. I just kind of, I like to discuss stuff, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think LSS is changing anything for a while
because of Twitter discourse.
Right. I mean, they
definitely listen to the players, but
yeah, for sure. Like Outsiders is designed, and I'm sure like the next couple sets after that,
at least for like a year, right?
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I don't know what the source is exactly, but it would make sense that like they basically have the cards designed for the sets for a while. So it's like they know what heroes are coming out. I'm sure they have an idea of how balanced they think they'll be. Like, but they've been wrong before. So it's like new Katsu might just be broken, or new Azalea or something, and we'll have to find out.
You know, but I think it's just strange. It becomes another way that Flesh and Blood feels like the Dark Souls of card games to me, where it's a purposefully difficult game that has a steep learning curve. Well, it doesn't. Like, if you put all of the interactions and mechanics in front of a new player, it is very difficult. If you give them an Ira deck, that's why people have the Ira deck or the Dory versus Rhinar classic battles. It's not that hard. You know, you attack, you block, you attack, you block. There's a reaction step that's a little bit hard for people to grasp, I think. I'm just saying from my own experience.
It's a little weird, yeah.
Arsenaling, there's like a couple weird little things, but like mostly it's like, okay, this is the game. Then when you add in all the other stuff you can do later on with wizards and stuff,
sure, there's instant speed stuff,
then it's extremely difficult. You have to really understand things, I think, that people aren't used to having to understand to play a game.
And then honestly, like the most difficult part is that it's like not, you know, a Dark Souls enemy with AI, it's a human. So like the hardest part,
jumping directly into Dark Souls PvP and then eating shit, and people are like, well, what do I do? And they're like, well, your build sucks, one. Also, you have no idea how to play the game.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what to do.
You're misplaying every turn. Like, that's the thing. It's like when you start the game, you're probably like playing with a janky deck and committing a misplay every turn. Probably you're probably blocking with cards you shouldn't. You're probably throwing your armor when you shouldn't. You're probably not blocking things you really should block.
100%.
You're probably walking into things.
Like, I look back at some of the things I've done and cringe, because like I just like remember like blocking with grasp like turn 2. You know, like, just why would I do that?
Block some damage.
Block a little 2 damage.
Why not? Yeah, get a little value for my armor.
I wasn't even thinking about value. I was just thinking about like
just using the cards. Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to take that damage or whatever. I don't know. I think I might have understood on hits a little bit and be like, well, I don't want to take on hits. Whatever. Point is that it's a difficult game, and that's why I like it. And so when people say, well, it should be easier for new players, I'm like, no, stop. I've had this conversation now for years about Dark Souls, about difficulty in video games, and it just feels like it only kind of leads to the same place. It's like, who are we talking about? Do you actually want to play the game? Is there a real person who would play the game if the game was worse? And that's how it feels to me, where it's like, let's make the game worse for some imaginary person that maybe would play a worse game. And it's like, I don't care about that imaginary person. I want to play the fun game that we have.
And it has such...
And it's also like FromSoft never entering the chat. Like, Miyazaki is never going to give you an easy mode.
They're never making
so
an easy
it's all
mode.
sort of unnecessary, because it's like the whole Dark Souls easy mode conversation is just a conversation to be had. Like, it's not an argument that means anything. Like, even if everybody in the entire Souls community was like, we want an easy mode,
here's what it would look like.
Miyazaki would be like, no.
Yeah.
like he's just not going to.
Yeah, and I feel like Flesh and Blood has the same solution as Dark Souls, which is that it is difficult, but also relatively easy to explain if somebody else understands it. So your opponent will crush you, and then they'll explain what their deck is doing. I've never played against anyone who is not willing to like tell me what their deck is doing. You know what I mean? Like they'll explain what they're doing. They'll explain what you did wrong if you misplayed. They'll talk about the matchup. You can learn about the meta. It's never been easier, I think, to like find out stuff about the game because you could just go like watch people play on Talishar. You could listen to podcasts. You can like read sideboard guides and deck techs. Like if you are a brand new player, you can jump in and just go like, let me learn how you play Dash. And then here's like a guide for every Dash matchup. Here's the cards and why they're good in certain matchups. So I think that is like, that's part of the value of Dark Souls is that it's like difficult enough that you can't just immediately play it. So then people will teach you how.
Right. Oh, is this new?
No, that's new.
Yeah. So while we were talking, there is a new a new article on fleshandblood.com, which is not the website, but it
Fab TCG.
Breezy has written an article called ProQuest Season 3 Metagame Week 1, which Chris is panting like a dog to read. So why don't you tell us what's
sees action. Neuron activation. I just like to see what they have going on in the meta. Okay.
It says Breezy's here. Who's this fella and what does he know about metagame analysis? Well, thankfully, I've been given the facts straight from the source, so you need not worry about any speculative information or biased opinions here. Especially, I'd love to tell you that Viscera is the best. I'll do that on my own time and let the data speak for itself. So I guess he's the one who makes all these pie charts. Maybe that's probably why they hired him or something.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he is right now. I don't know if he always has written these articles.
Right. So what we're looking at here
Why do they always do it like this? Why can't they just say the percentage next to the...
Just look at the thing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're right. How is this or this? I'm assuming Phi is 15%.
I think it starts up there. That little white one is Arachne.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And then Azalea. So this is the metagame breakdown. So we got Phi by far with 15%. Right.
We've got Icelander with 10%. We've got Dramai at 9%. Who's this? Dash at 10%.
Oh, yeah. All pretty expected. Dash, Iceland, like Phi most represented. Dash and Icelander also represented. And this one is Dromai. That
wow, 115 local game stores across 32 countries have reported a staggering 4,000 player turnout for our first week of ProQuest.
It's pretty crazy to think about.
4,000 people?
4,000 people came to ProQuest.
Just to go back to what we were talking about, I don't think it was that much last year.
I don't think so.
I feel like
it's a lot of people.
Whatever you're looking at in terms of 98-day XP or whatever, I think we're looking at a lot like a general, whatever the like up and down wave is. I think we're looking at a general line of more and more people playing the game. I think just from sales and this kind of data, I don't think that's, I don't have the data either. So it just, and I mean, obviously LSS wants it to look like it's growing. So
sure, yeah.
Who can we really believe?
It looks like every hero is represented. The least is 0.9% Levia was played. But everyone's there. So that's cool.
Every single person.
I assume so. I think so, because we have Azalea and we have Levia and we have Bolton all represented, and those are usually like the least. Is there, and even probably Katsu, right? Katsu is there. Yeah, looks like 5% were Katsu.
Yeah, 1.4% Bolton. That's fun.
Yeah.
0.9% Levia. 3.4% Kano. My boy is slipping.
He's out there.
So we've got Draconic Ninja consuming 15%. I want to tip my hat to the 20 brave souls who juggled Blood Debt with Levia. I might just do that just to be on the list. I mean,
that's actually awesome. Yeah, if it's like we're 18 people who played Levia this week. Okay, so then we have the top 8s.
The winner breakdown. This is the top 8 breakdown.
So this is how many of each hero made the top 8.
It looks about the same. It looks like Oldham is the most in terms of conversion, like double conversion.
Yeah, because Oldham is like what, 7%?
7, and then had 96.
Yeah, his
pie looks bigger.
His pie looks bigger. Phi's pie looks a little bigger, but not that much bigger.
Right.
Dramai
is doing okay.
Dromai can do good.
Looks like everybody, lots of people top 8'd with her.
Icelander also a big chunk. Like her slice is bigger. So it's sort of as you'd expect. Like the quote unquote S tier heroes, Oldhim, Fi, Icelander. Did Dash make the top 8?
Now the winner is crazy because it's by far Oldhim.
Wow. Oh yeah.
It's by far Oldhim going crazy. Icelander big chunk out of Fi's slice of the pie.
But yeah, when you compare the number of people who brought Fi and the number of people who brought Oldhim and then who won. Yeah, and actually we can tie this back to the Battle Hardened, because the Battle Hardened in New Jersey was won by Oldhim, and the Battle Hardened in Leeds was won by Oldhim. And I definitely in the New Jersey one, the finals was an Oldhim mirror. I don't know if it was in Leeds, but I do know in Leeds the top 8 was I think 5 Oldhim and 3 Icelander, and the metagame was very diverse. Like all different kinds of heroes showed up to both Battle Hardens, but then the people who like rose to the top and made it to the top 8 were mainly ice decks. I think the only aggro deck that made top 8 in Jersey Battle Hardened was Briar.
Wow. Oh yeah,
so,
one.
And we were kind of talking.
I thought she's talented.
No,
Elemental Runeblade.
Only aggro hero.
Oh, aggro hero.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. We've kind of talked about this off mic some, that it's like it's interesting to try to analyze, because it sometimes feels like Oldhim is just the hero that the really good players play. Like some of the best players have a lot of experience on Oldhim, and it's like a meta where you can play whatever hero you think you're good at. And whatever is like, if it's an open meta, you're like, hey, Oldhim's good.
But I don't know.
Meta.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, we were just talking about how player expression and player skill is so important in this game, in terms of how good it is, or how easy it is to win. But it's hard to imagine that a middling deck would be the number one winner just because
of
the better play. Like if everyone like. Gosh, it's hard to imagine a comparison, but it's if every good player for whatever reason played Kano, I don't think it'd be the same. Like,
I think you're right. I think it's like, especially at a ProQuest level, where it's like, you know, one of the people who made top 8 at the New Jersey Battle Hardened was Michael Feng, who we have played often locally because he lives in New Jersey, and like, he's just someone who seems really, really strong. He has a strong analytical mind for the game, and like every time I play him, it feels like he's outplaying me. And like, if someone like that is playing Oldhim, I'm like, okay, you're like so good that you're outplaying everyone. But like at every I see what you're saying, that it's like, even if it's the best players playing Oldhim, it still is like, if they're consistently
it's also
winning,
a really good deck.
It's also just a really good deck. Yeah.
Considering he has Winter's Wail and Shield.
Yeah, no one really gives the same flack to Winter's Wail that they give to Rosetta. I think it was just
they really should. Though.
Rosetta was just everywhere. Rosetta was in Chain. It was in Briar because it was her weapon.
Viscerai, who was better than Chain for a time.
When Viscerai had the combo. Yeah.
Yeah, Runeblades were really running the show for a hot second there.
Mm-hmm. But Wail was just in Starvo when he was the best deck, and then he left, and then it was Oldhim.
And that's interesting to think about. Like Starvo having Winter's Wail was just like, that's not right.
Yeah.
But
I didn't draw my fuse. Let's just attack you super efficiently and block, and then look for my fuse next turn.
Right.
Why not wait around?
Because I think it felt like a piece of how broken Starvo was. Right. Like it wasn't like, well, clearly it's because he has Winter's Wail. It was like also, hey, of course he also gets one of the best weapons in the game.
Yeah.
But now I think they should. that is a very annoying weapon.
They should take it away from Oldhim?
No, I don't think they should take it away. But people
should complain.
If people are going to complain about Rosetta, like Winter's Wail is crazy. Mm-hmm. Like that card is nuts.
It's really crazy. Yeah.
How is it one-handed?
So he can wear a shield. He's just that strong. He's that jacked from sleeping for a century or whatever he did.
Imagine if Rosetta Thorn. I guess what else would you put in your other hand if you were Viscerai? 2
Rosettas.
Oh right.
You would just farm an action point after creepers and be like Rosetta for 2 and 2. Second
Wait,
Rosetta.
could you have 2 Winter's Wail?
I
guess what would you do?
I guess I don't actually. Are you allowed to have 2 Winter's Wail? I never actually thought about it. I guess you could. There's just like so little ways to get action points as a guardian. So
Right.
like the utility of swinging with it twice is kind of like it's kind of moot. Like Sledge of Anvilheim technically is not a once
Right.
per turn.
That's the
action.
only reason Rosetta is two-handed, because you could easily do it twice.
You could get action points. Yeah. You could give it go again, or you could just have an extra action
you can
point.
creepers in a go again something.
Yeah.
And then, or you could build your shit around that.
Yeah.
Like you could just be like, owls I'm running is non-attacks with go again, so that I can Rosetta 2 times.
Yeah,
or whatever. But yeah, I think Winter's Wail is pretty crazy.
Mhm.
I mean, I get why it's one-handed, so that because they want him to have a shield too.
Yeah, and the
but
the whole shield concept was cool.
It's still, I love the shields; they're great. But yeah, it's messed up, I think. But anyway, so we're seeing Oldham win all over the town. That's what
Mhm.
we saw at the Battle Hardened.
Yeah.
I played Icelander. Chris played Fi.
Mhm.
I got there on Battle Horde early. Woke up at 7 a.m.
Mhm.
or maybe even earlier, 6:30 or something. Waking up at 6:30 in the damn morning to get in my friend's car,
Mhm.
drive to the Battle Hardened, sit down and fight one of the guys I rode there with.
That was really stupid.
I was like,
You fought 2 people in a row, right?
and then the guy who drove.
Yeah.
Well, I fought Leo and I fought Matt
You paired into 2
in
people
a row.
in the first 2 rounds. Yeah, we had
And to add insult to injury, I lost both games.
Yeah.
Then I won
Mhm.
3. So we both went 3-5. He won his first 2.
Yeah.
And I lost my first 2.
We both had annoying first round pairings for different reasons. Yours for like a much more annoying reason where you're just paired into the one person one of the few
2
people
I know.
yeah, out of 100 something people. Mine was I showed up, I was like filling out my deck list, and also they paired the round, so I went to sit down and I saw as I was sitting down Lexi sleeves on my opponent, and I was like, "Oh no." Say it's not Lexi. Maybe he just likes the sleeves. And I sat down and was like, "Who are you playing?" And he said, "I'm playing Lexi." And internally, I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna like." I just accepted like I'm taking a round 1 loss. There's no way I make top 8. How is Fi gonna beat Lexi? This is a nightmare matchup. And I did get there somehow. Command and Conquer helped. He kind of drew brick hands early that didn't give me frostbites and were all blue arrows. So like I managed to get off like a 20 something damage mask turn. Pouncing links, and he was like at a big life deficit, and then it was one of those like the tempo, like I just had to block constantly, and then eventually chipped him down, but it was a very tight game. It was very scary.
And then you fought Lexi again, right?
No, my second round opponent was a Kano. Round 1 I fought
my
Lexi.
God.
Then I fought a Kano, and I was like, wow, once again, okay, I just leaving it up to chance here if I win or not. I played it pretty well. I mean, there's not much you interact with Kano other than ABing, and had a good like Art of War turn with pouncing links, and then he had to try to go off with like nothing but reds, so he just bricked horribly and couldn't deal me enough damage with the Aether Wildfire, and then I killed him. So killed Alexi, killed a Kano, was on top of the world, then I paired into a Bravo, and I just got crushed to death.
Nice.
Yeah, that was tough.
2-0 with the Battle Hardened, but then you only won one more game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a fun time. I mean, I felt a real sense of security, false sense of security from the armory.
Oh
where
yeah,
I won
the day before we went to like the big armory event at SCG Con, and both of us won 2 games.
Yeah. Well, I won 2 games, and then I drew 1, which felt like I would have won, but it was Arachne, and
You
it
had to
just
draw.
took a really long time.
Arachne's tough, yeah.
And you won 3, I thought.
Well, so I guess I just got lucky, and my first round opponent didn't show up, so I got a free win, and then I won my next 2, so I ended up like with a really good record where I only lost in the last round to Michael Feng, who so.
Right.
Because first round I don't know who my opponent was playing. I played a friendly with our friend Tony, and I did win. So I got a little. It was really annoying because it was like we traveled all this way and then sat down, and then everyone else was playing, and I was just sitting there. And so it was good to like do a little friendly and like get my deck in my hands and get a little practice. And then round 2, I did end up playing a Phi Mirror, I think, like the second round. So
you like the Phi Mirror?
I mean, you just go for it. It's not always. It's like any mirror. You just like hope you draw the better cards, kind of. I definitely did. He put me going first, and I arsenaled an Art of War and just dealt him 30 damage, and the game was basically over there. So I won that one, and then the third round I had a Briar.
Wait, you arsenaled an Art of War And then on your second turn, you dealt him 30 damage?
Yeah, on like the first real turn, I just like dealt a shitload of damage. Then I played a Briar, and he was kind of bricking, so we had to block a lot, and that one was easy. And then I played Oldham, and it sucked, and I got Oldham to death.
Michael Fang's Oldham?
Michael Fang, yeah.
Well, that happens.
And that one it was weird too. Like it was sort of like this event was making me think about like what you can and can't take away from Talishar games, because like based on playing on Talishar, I've been sort of like, okay, like Oldham can be hard, but like it's not that good into Fi. I feel like it's actually kind of bad at stopping Fi. Like, you know.
Yeah, playing me as Icelander, you might think Icelander sucks.
Yeah. But it was also like a deck building thing too, because I kept playing Oldhams with Crown of Seeds and being like, man, that's not doing that much. And then Michael Fang sat down with Crown of Providence. Right. And I think people realized that's the better choice against Fi, and they figured out how to play against Fi better. And, you know, he made zero mistakes, I'm sure. So it's like in that situation, and Bravos too, like Bravos that are like really built for Fi and dealing a ton of damage and disruption and stuff. It's like kind of hard to get around.
Right.
So it was interesting to actually like go and play against like really top tier players and not just no shade to people in Talishar. I'm sure some of them are top tier, but you can get a false sense of security a little bit.
No, of course. I mean, you know, even when you put like competitive CC, like it's still just a bunch of people like us hoping to play people who are also trying really hard.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to find, and this is what I was saying to you off mic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I think this is why teams are important, right? Like, you know, you can measure the kinds of people you're testing into.
Yeah.
Like Talishar, I just feel like isn't like the best testing. It just feels like, how does this deck work? Like that's what it's good for.
Right.
It's
and
like,
that's very important for some decks to just have reps.
Can I make this work? What do I do in this situation? How much damage does that do? Like it's great to test for yourself, but in terms of like actually learning how to fight against good players, it's not very good for that.
It like occasionally you'll have some games where it's like really tight and it's hard to get there, and that
but
helps
you don't
learn.
know how much better that person is than you. Like they might just be another random person. You're very rarely like knowing that you're fighting Michael Hamilton or Michael Fang or Yanji or you know, somebody who's won a calling or a pro tour, you know, like
I did have that experience once because I ran into Cale McCreath on Talishar.
As Bravo, right?
As Bravo, because he only plays Bravo. He's played like thousands of games of Bravo. And like, I don't even know what it was exactly, but there was just like something different about the way he played where I was just like, oh, he's making no mistakes and has like a complete instinctual mastery of what this deck is doing. And it was really scary. It was like so much harder than Bravo usually feels. And it's not like I even beat Bravo every time. It's not the best matchup. Sometimes he gets there. But it felt like he was just like, I know how to make my deck get there.
Did he win?
Yeah, he crushed me. Well,
do you know what to do now?
I mean, not let him pummel a crippling crush, I guess.
Every time?
No, just once. I think like after the game, he was like, because I had a sink in Arsenal and I like played the sink below and used armor to like stop the crush, and then he pummeled it, so I lost my cards anyway. And he was like, I think you should have just kept the sink in Arsenal and like started the game at 28 life, basically. Like lose that turn and then just like start playing the next turn. Like play around the fact that you could get pummeled and not like waste the sink, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Seems really scary. So he's saying, do the Price is Right meme?
Yeah, just be like, take 15 damage or whatever.
Oh, 30 damage? Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, Fi is just
no blocks.
Fi is just a man with 39 points of life that he does not care about at all and a dream to kill you. And that's what he's doing. He's hot-headed. He does not care about protecting his life total in any way.
You can't, if you want to have a revolution, you can't care about your life.
Yeah, he's just burning his way to the Emperor. Except then he gets there and Arachne's killed the Emperor already.
Right, Jeremiah and Fi are both like, what the fuck?
I was going to kill this guy.
Come on. We'll have to find out more about their stories in some other set, because Outsiders is coming in March, and goddamn am I excited. I mean, like, I do agree with Tarek that, like, for me, I want more Broken Heroes. Like, I want Outsiders to have somebody who I can just, like, throw a meat hook at them and just do 20 damage every turn. You know what I mean?
I don't think he's going to be much like that. But
I don't think he's going to be like that either. It sounds like a very defensive type of play, but
I mean, if they figured out a way to make like,
I mean, traps are defense reactions,
right? And yeah, honestly, if they figured out a way to make defensive ranger work,
he's just going to be poison Oldham.
Right. I was gonna say like the one big weakness of both Rangers is defense. Like their armor doesn't block.
We're
for
talking
shit.
about Riptide from Outsiders, by
Right.
the way.
Riptide in the new set. Yeah. It's like Lexi and Azalea, each in different ways, struggles to block because like their cards don't block super well and they have no blocking armor. So like if there's a Ranger that can like effectively block with traps and then also do other Ranger stuff, Rangers have some crazy cards. They have some very powerful cards.
I know.
They have
I
the
think
only
he's
card
going
in-
to be very tall, and I think he's going to be very defensive, and I think he's going to basically just be the new Oldham.
Like Toxic Oldham.
And I'm going to get in on the ground floor
That
on that
sounds
shit,
cool.
and I'm going to win.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to work.
Yes. There's only one class in the game that has a card that says draw 3 cards. They have the Power 9. Ancestral Recall.
That's true. They do say that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I'm very excited for Outsiders. We have no new information.
Yeah, that's true. Nothing new.
People continue to theorize about the Codex of Frailty,
Mhm.
a word a weird amount of people can't say.
Yeah, it's just frailty,
It's
right?
frailty.
Yeah. What are they saying?
Fraility,
Fraility?
fraility,
Yeah.
frail. People put too many L's.
Yeah.
I think they're just not used to saying frailty.
Right.
But no worries. No, we don't judge here.
Say it however
Say
you
it
want.
however you want. It doesn't
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
matter.
Who cares?
We know what it is.
Mhm.
Um,
Unless you don't say Icelander. That's the hill. I don't know. People call her like Eastlander or Eastlander or something. I'm not a fan of that one. Icelander is the pun. It's a stupid pun. I agree.
Chris
but
can hate all he wants. I don't judge
you
personally.
You like Eastlander?
I don't judge.
So did you have fun playing Eastlander?
Anyway, so we don't have much information. You know, I'm just very excited. Codex of Frailty is, the more I think about it, a good card.
Yeah. It looks like we're maybe getting some like graveyard interactions.
I'm a little sad about 3 Marvels.
Only 3 Marvels?
Only 3.
Yeah, it's less. It's a lot less than they keep going down. It feels at this point now that you mention it.
No.
Like-
Uprising and Dynasty had way more than Uprising.
Dynasty had more. It had more than like every
How many
Marvel
dragons are
dragon.
there?
I don't know, like 15?
How many weapons are there?
Less than 15?
I don't think so.
I don't know. We should look. We can actually fact check this because maybe you're right.
Well, we're trying to wrap this up here.
I know, but that is a good question. Because what can you look at? The set release or something?
Oh yeah.
Product releases. It says how many Marvels. Dynasty has 14 Marvels.
Okay.
Hey, it was less than 15. I nailed it. Uprising has question mark Marvels?
Question mark
They
Marvels?
didn't tell us. Well, there's a lot of dragons.
There's a lot of dragons, and there's also an Icelander Marvel, and a Phoenix Flame Marvel.
That's true.
And a Ash Marvel.
I think there's
I think
more.
there's probably more.
Yeah,
in
so I'm
Uprising.
saying it feels like they in Uprising were like, hey, here's tons of Marvels. Also, the ones for the rare cards are pretty easy to hit relatively, so get a lot of them. Dynasty, it was like, okay, chill out a little bit.
It's all majestic.
They're majestic, so they're hard to hit.
Now there's only 3.
Or they're legendary. Now they're just majestic. Yeah, so maybe it's becoming a thing that is like sprinkled in.
All right, one last question before we go.
Okay.
Flake, Matt DeMarco, posted calling it reprint Fable.
Oh.
What do you think?
Will it be a reprint Fable? I think no, because
Command and Conquer style, obviously.
Right, Command and Conquer style. Yeah, I've heard people theorize like E-Strike as the reprint or like Art of War or something, just like more stables.
Yeah.
I feel like no, because it's not a supplemental set and
expansion set.
It's right. It's not an expansion set, so I think it'll be something or other that is like about the pits or something. Like, because I feel like that's not something they want to give up on doing, is like putting out a like themed. Like, we haven't had a location in a while, so maybe there'll be some kind of like
landmark.
Yeah, landmark. Maybe there'll be like the tavern.
I agree. I think it probably won't. I think they'll continue, and I fall, depending on my mood, I fall pretty on different sides on the Fabled conversation. Somebody was kind of saying like, Heart really seems like it's a good playable card that if you want to be competitive, like running Icelander or something, you probably should have it.
Yeah. Michael Hamilton said he didn't think he would have won Worlds if he didn't have it.
Well, he said, I don't know. It's a pretty good card.
Yeah. I think he said probably not. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think, the thing is like, you probably aren't going to go to the worlds. You know, like
Yeah.
like you're probably not going to win your battle hardened or your pro quest.
Sure.
Right? Like
ProQuest is hard.
let alone like if you get a PTI, sure, buy the heart or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
if you test it and you're like, I win 5% more games if I have this
right,
thing.
but we're talking about very thin margins.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's reasonable to be like, new players feel like they need this. It's like, no, just tell them they don't, because we're talking about like very slim margins of like
they want it,
getting
and it's cool
one
to
over
have.
the best players, like on a consistent basis,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on a sometimes consistent basis. I've heard of people, I've definitely talked to really good players being like, I think I'm cutting heart because it's too situational or too slow or whatever.
Sure.
But
There's
whatever.
all kinds of cards people are like, yeah, I'll actually cut this. Like sometimes people just play like 10-cent common armor over a tunic because it's actually better.
Right. I think that hearts and eyes are not so good that I think they should be less playable. I mean, I think if the only way to get a Command and Conquer was a Fabled, that would be too playable.
Right, that's
like,
true. That
also,
is eminently playable.
If you want 3 of them in your deck,
mm-hmm.
okay, even if it was only you could have one of it.
Yeah, it would still be like any deck that can run Pummel, like a Guardian deck.
Like a Gorganian Tome.
Yeah.
Where it's just like...
Runeblade is like, oh, this card's crazy. It draws you a card for free.
Can you imagine if you could have 3 of those in Viserai every turn?
Oh, man. But then the Viserai Mirror, where it's like whoever plays the last one just like draws 6 cards.
Oh, yeah. I forgot how that worked.
Yeah. I think it's been relevant for me like once ever when playing it.
Right. Generally want to play it second if you can. But
I just never played against Runeblades very much when I was playing Briar.
Fun card. But
cool card, yeah.
Yeah, I think like I think that being a gem would be a little much.
Command and Conquer?
Gorganian Tome. Like, I feel like if you're going to make a card that playable, you should make it legendary. But the pitching thing where it like doesn't even block, like it's such a downside. Like it's really only for people who are going to a pro tour or who pulled it, like me.
Sure.
I'm bragging.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I see the concern where it's like they shouldn't keep printing things that are like Heart that like easily make their way into competitive decks and like are arguably better than not having
I do.
it.
I think they should. I think it should be something that is like a nice thing to run.
Sure. Yeah, I think
it is good.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of arguable. Like, Heart is like necessary to run. Or,
I guess I just think as someone who really likes opening packs, the idea of pulling a Fabled like Blood of Drakai where no one wants it. Is lame.
It is not worth very much.
It feels really bad to be like, oh my god, I pulled a Fable. Too bad it doesn't fucking do anything.
I don't want it.
And nobody wants it. Like it's like $40, right? And it's only $40 because of how rare it is. If it was a legendary, it'd be $20.
Yeah.
If it was a majestic, it'd be 1 cent.
It'd be $1, yeah. If that.
Like it's like it's not a valuable card because people don't want to play it. And I fully believe that someone's going to figure that card out, or they're going to print a hero that needs it.
It could change. Yeah, it's like there's so many.
And
like,
it'll be playable.
This game has a very long.
And that's an interesting thing to do, is release a gem or a Fabled that sucks now. So that if you want it and you are smart, you'll buy it now. And then you won't complain when it's worth $500.
People will always complain though. Like there was a time when
but it would be a good idea.
It'd be funny, yeah. Like we weren't around for it, but Stormstriders used to be worth like $30. I think I remember someone saying online, like I made a lot of money buying up a bunch of Stormstriders and Valiant Dynamo when they weren't worth much, and then selling them off.
Yeah, I mean, I bought a a skullbone cross strap. Can't say that one. I bought one and then immediately pulled one out of a history pack, and now I bought one for what, $19?
Yeah, something really cheap. You bought it when it was like so cheap that it was like I can't not buy this.
Yeah, I just buy legendaries when they're below $30.
Right, because they're legendaries.
I'll
they will
just
be worth
hang
it.
on to them because someone's gonna find out when they're good, and then like it's not gonna take a year for that hero to be.
Or
good.
they'll just print new cards. Like they seem to have a very like considering that. Like Azalea, I feel like in the Uprising meta, like when Uprising had just come out, and like Azalea and Katsu were both like pretty unplayed heroes. Like Azalea, Katsu, and like Levia, maybe Bolton.
So, yeah,
they printed new Bolton legendary. They're printing new Azalea and Katsu. Like it feels like they're really starting to target. Like they're finding times to like target heroes that need help.
Yep, because they want things to be very balanced.
Keep everything moving up in power level together
until they make a new Starvo.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying is that Fableds, I think, should be nice and playable. Like a nice little, put one of them in your deck and it makes your deck just 2% better.
They shouldn't be too shitty because then, like you said, they're only worth $40 and it's not fun to pull.
Right.
It needs to be a balance.
The whole point is that it's fun to pull.
It's a fable.
It's a fable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our opinions for this week. Thank you for being here with us in the Banished Zone. We now have a Discord. The Discord link should be in the description.
Mm-hmm.
We are now taking pre-orders for box openings, and I'm going to try to start doing box battles. If you like box battles or you want to spend $40, $50 to see if you can beat another person and get a whole box for that price, just let me know. We'll do it.
We already have one person who signed up to get a box of Outsiders broken on like release night, right?
Yeah. So I'm on Outsiders. I'm going to go to the store, set up the whole streaming software there, and then open my boxes and then open viewers' boxes. So if you want to be a part of that, go to the Discord.
That'll be fun.
Just open the go to the little document down there, fill out a little form.
If enough people sign up, then you'll be opening multiple cases because we're going to be like sharing one case between us, and then someone else has a box. So 3 more boxes. Suddenly it's 2 cases.
It's 2 cases.
Yeah.
So if you want that to happen, let's see it. Let's get that Fabled.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be very fun if we got the Fabled. I think it'd be great if we got a Marveled. We'll see. I'm very excited. So wish us luck. By the time you see this, we're probably already playing our Pro Quests.
So next episode we'll have all kinds of
I will probably be playing a
recap.
shit deck for the fun of it because I'm kind of just tired of trying to be good at Icelander because I'm not.
Icelander seems fucking punishing, I gotta say.
It's very punishing, and I just want to kind of have fun at the Pro Quest. I don't think I'd top 8 even if I did play a good deck. This I think if I had swallowed my pride and just practice Dash, I think I'd have a chance.
Sure. Dash pretty good.
Or just also played Fi, which I feasibly could have also done. But I didn't, and it's 2 days away, and I think I'm just going to play a Brute or something for fun.
You should do it. You guys would play Kano for fun, or is it just not fun to play against all the broken decks that beat it?
I thought about that today, and I'm not I just don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
I just love breaking dragons, and I know there's going to be some Dramise there.
Right.
So I like having all the 6s.
Yeah, true. It's like revenge for Kano. The pops.
Anyway, thank you so much for being here. This has been the Banished Zone. I keep wanting to go to patreon.com/Banished Zone, but that doesn't exist yet. Maybe it will someday.
Guess if you want us to have it exist, let us know.
Again, we'd have to figure out what the content would be.
Yeah.
So that doesn't exist yet. But do follow me on Twitter at Banished Zone. Follow Chris at Blue Plunder Run. See you in the Discord, I guess.
Yeah.
Until next time, you're banished.
You're banished.